What's going on, gamers? So we had some interesting topics pop up yesterday about the PlayStation 6, coming from the source of Moore's Law is Dead, of course. You know, he does good work for people. I like his page. The interesting thing here is Sony trying to change their strategy, definitely with the way the market conditions are. And maybe by the time the stuff drops too, market conditions will be even better, which I believe. I don't think it's going to stay like this. So this rumor here says Sony is claimed to be working on a cheaper model of the PlayStation 6 with a possible price point of $350 and $550. Like, whoa, that's a $200 difference there. That's how this market is. Now, I don't believe a 350 price tag, no. I believe it'll probably be between 450 to 500. And the PS6 for normal model will probably be 700. You're like, wait, so they're doing the Xbox route. And it's like, well, actually, Nintendo's been doing this for the longest. So everybody was using Nintendo's method. But technically, if you want to go against PlayStation versus Xbox in that field, you could possibly say they're doing a Series S model, right? Well, let me tell you why Sony would be smart, because they're doing this now. Because when the Series S launched, it wasn't about that in that market. The market wasn't insane like that. Now this market is insane. What would make Sony intelligent is to do that now, because they need the PS6 to be successful. And people always go for the cheapest models anyway, right? So if the PS6 had to launch at 700, which I believe they're going to try to get it down to 650, but 700 probably so, right? It is smart to have a cheaper model. And if it's more powerful than a Pro, or has almost a similar power, but a little bit more power, much better CPU, more RAM, and the PSSR 3, then that means you're getting something cheaper than the PS5 Pro that can easily go past it. No problem. For $450 or $500, if they can get that up doing that, why would anybody not buy that? It would sell out like hotcakes. And Sony would still be able to do what PlayStation does, whereas the PS6 base could seem like some professional model that is pretty expensive at launch, and the hardcore enthusiasts that want to get that would go ahead and get that. It's something to really think about, because this is a topic to talk about right here. Because if you go down in the comments, things obviously get out of control. It's going to be most likely butthurt Xbox fanboys that have going to PC, still console warring against PlayStation. And then there's just certain PC gamers just saying get a PC, which literally makes no sense, because if you're still going to get that type of technology for that price, the PC market is still the worst and most overpriced by a mile. Hello, have you been paying attention to NVIDIA lately? It's like, this is what I don't understand about that mentality, and it still keeps on showing its own folly. It's like, you're not making any sense. And Rhino says, do you think this may hold back to the next generation? No, this is not Xbox. Sony has a strong base. People have always wanted to just get a PlayStation and play it. Like some say Xbox Series S did. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily the case. It's just more about the position that Microsoft had the Xbox in. Right? Source, Moore's Law is dead, as we know. So no, it's not the same thing, because like I said, people are looking for a cheaper model in today's market. This is why it does not work trying to say that they're going to do the same thing Microsoft did, because they're not in the same position. To hold back what? It's going to be cross-gen for the longest anyways. People have been in lower end PCs for the longest on Steam. PS5 Pro is a lot more powerful than a lot of these PCs that people are having. And the PS6S, or whatever they're going to call it, people are just saying that. And definitely the PS6 is going to be more powerful than 87% of the PC rigs in the world. You know what I mean? So it's like, what is there to be holding back? We're to this point now where that doesn't work anymore, because the Series S is going to be so far behind those. It doesn't make any sense to look at the Switch 2. It's not holding back anything. They'll just choose what they want to support or not. No, we're kind of past that now. So that type of mentality is not going to work. I want you guys to let me know what you think about that. Because it's like I said, if Sony does this, to me, this is smart, because you're being forced in that market position to have to probably charge $700 minimum for the PS6 if this market condition doesn't get better. Another thing they're going to do is the PS6 model is going to be completely different than the PS5 model. What I mean by that? Well, Sony's going to strip down as many parts as they can, definitely with this cheaper model, to where they're not worried about that, because what you care about is what's inside of the box, so that you can turn your game on and play it. Nobody turns on the PlayStation 5 kissing it, right? Nobody turns on the PlayStation 5 to look at it. No, I'm trying to play games. That's the kind of point of getting it. So the access is the most important thing. So I'm telling you right now, if they're doing this cheaper model, that's actually going to be smart. A lot of people have been following Nintendo's models, because they've always done cheaper models. and get that access, and people buy them because they just want to get that experience. That matters more than anything. So one thing that people are missing about this is, yeah, that PlayStation 6 Lite is going to have PSSR 3. It's going to have a better CPU and better RAM, regardless. So that's something that people really need to think about, because then there's not going to be any bottlenecks. You see? People are going to go for that because that's what they think about when they think about a console. To them, that's going to be that console range price that they want. It's not an argument. It's like, no, this is going to work because Sony has a closed-only system now, only on PlayStation. Their first-party games are exclusive there only. They're trying to push their AI upscaler. It is going to work, and people are attached to their profile and their trophies and their platinum, so it's just going to be a carryover. And for them, they will easily swap that base model PlayStation 5 for that PlayStation 6 Lite, which is easily going to be more powerful in every facet. And it's not going to cost them that much more money. If these are flowing over at GameStop in millions with the PS6s too, they'll all sell out, you know what I mean? But it'll basically have Sony in a good position because they had a cheaper PS5 digital at launch, and then the PS5, which was obviously launched more because Sony wanted to sell more of those, and that would sell out easily. It's no different, I promise you, except obviously it'll be weaker, but it doesn't matter at that point because it's still going to be really good price to get those type of specifications in today's market. It's a no-brainer. Now going down here, Orlando's laughing. This guy right here says people are getting smarter and switching to PC. Not really, dude. If you're going to play PlayStation and you want to play PlayStation games, the only way to get PlayStation games is to get the console. Same thing with Nintendo. It's not about switching. It's about, I still love their IPs and their games, so I have to have their console. And some people just like that affordability and easy access and play. And the diminishing returns are getting so high now that it doesn't matter anymore unless you're doing path tracing. And then on top of that, some people like to own both, right? Like myself, and have the Nintendo product. I've always had all consoles since the 90s. He says, if you need to put out a cheap system, then maybe you don't need to put out a new system. That is a stupid mentality when nothing is affordable. You need to make something affordable. People are not graphic whores in the console world, and mostly in general. It is just a Western society problem where they overstare at details way too much without realizing that the most important thing is really good video games and exclusives. Having good games, that's what you care about more than anything. I rest my case on that. It's not really an argument. But this is, once again, like I said, where you see like probably Xbox fanboys that are on PC or PC players that just kind of want to play that game, but it doesn't work. You can stop exposing yourself. You already did that with Cyberpunk. Now you're saying something like this. It doesn't make any sense. In today's market, consoles are all about being affordable. And this is what they're going to do. They're going to have that option. That's actually intelligent. For you to sit there and say that, yeah, you're not really getting the picture. Why bother? They could have stuck to the PS5 for 3 more years if you can't afford the PS6. Well, the PS5 is still going to be there for 3 more years. There comes a certain point where you have to get a new product on the market after a certain deadline. Just look at the way phones work. They're even worse. Can you, you see what I mean? It's like, how long can you hold on to that? But the thing is, though, is that I think the PS6 should launch in 2028. But if it's late 2027, that's their decision. But most console generations last 6 to 7 years. That will be 8 years if it launches in 2028. And DPJ says the Series S hasn't held back this generation. The backwards compatibility for the previous generation has. We haven't seen any games that take full use of this gen's hardware. Not one. I don't know about that. What do you mean? That's been there, bro. But the Series S holding back is not really necessarily a problem. It's the condition and the way that Microsoft handled the Xbox brand. Sony should learn from Microsoft's mistakes with the Series S. It's not going to be the same, though. And make an affordable console with strong performance that doesn't sacrifice the former for profit. Here's the thing that you're not understanding. That was something that was argued about in this generation, but the leap that the PS6 Lite is going to make is where you start looking at the current PC market right now, like, man, it's beating all of these. For that price, nobody would not buy that. It's really about, man, look at the specifications. As a PC gamer, you're just looking at the specifications like, man, if this thing is not necessarily smoking the Pro from a GPU perspective, but has a more powerful GPU than the PS5 Pro, has more RAM and an easy better CPU and PSSR 3, what are you talking about? I don't think you're really realizing that. It could easily just have 20 gigabytes of RAM, doesn't have to have like 30 or 24 gigabytes of RAM, doesn't have to have 32 because the more powerful model will have that. But at the end of the day, that's still beating anything RAM-wise, and CPU is beating anything. CPU wise, because it'll probably share the same CPU, but not the same GPU and lesser RAM, but it'll still use the same upscaler. And at that point, dude, it's going to destroy anything that is going to be compared against it for that price point. I think people are really missing that. So it's not a Microsoft mistake because Sony is not in a Microsoft position with, like Xbox is. No, you're not. That doesn't make any sense. No, they're doing quite fine actually. Besides the price hike and the Blue Point stuff. I just saw this a little bit ago myself, and to say the least, I was surprised. I figured PlayStation would go all out next gen. I think that is because it's all about balance. It's not all about chasing power all the time. You already have plenty enough. Y'all are not getting this. PlayStation is copying Xbox again. Let me guess, the PS6 is going to be a hybrid console as well. Well, consoles have kind of been in that hybrid aspect like a PC for quite some time. And like I said, cheaper models came from Nintendo. Microsoft was doing a Nintendo method. And the cheaper model was selling. So this is where I feel like if people get so stuck in a PlayStation versus Xbox bubble, they forget that, no, dude, that's what Nintendo has been doing for the longest. Is that not true, or is it true? It is. It's true. They've been doing that. So but I could see that if you look at this from a PlayStation versus Xbox perspective, as if Microsoft was the one who invented a cheaper model, then you could possibly think that, but that wasn't the case. That's been going on. And Sony's been doing PlayStation Lites and Slims for quite some time. So now watch the same people who said Series X held back this generation spread and bend over when Sony do it. No, that's not the case, dude, because like I said, when you get to that point, it's not going to be a holdback. People have been scaling all the way down to the Steam Deck this generation, down to the S, to the Switch 2. You see what I mean? So that's over with when you get to that PS6 Lite, because it's going to be a lot more powerful than them. So if anything, they're still going to be trying to go to that. You're not making any sense. PS6 is going to be cheaper than the base PS5. I can't see it happening. Well, we're talking about a PS6 Lite model. Now, we don't know about that. We're going to see what happens, though. But I think it'll be between $450 to $500 possibly, and the PS6 will be $700 if they have to be forced into that position. And honestly, it will work. Not if it has the same amount of memory. I believe that was the big issue with Series S. Yeah, like you don't know the specifications of this, but what you do know is it's going to be better easily than anything, even the PS5 Pro. So it doesn't make any sense. And then this dude just get a PC at this point. Like, this is where somebody comes in and just voids out all the exclusives. Like, people on PlayStation don't want to play PlayStation exclusive. They just want to go to PC. No, they're PlayStation people. Like, people on Nintendo don't want to get Nintendo because you're playing it for the exclusives. And they have that third-party access on PlayStation that has always been there. And like I said, diminishing returns are so high now, it doesn't matter anymore. Everything is now 60 frames in performance mode. So that doesn't really add up to get an overpriced PC market either. No, because NVIDIA has made that ridiculous along with all the other corporations. So I want you guys to let me know what you think about this. Do you think that it is smart for Sony to have a cheaper model on the market to counter the market manipulation? I think so. I think it's very wise, and people will be able to afford the PS6, and people going from the base PS5 over to the PS6 Lite will be still making a significant leap, and they will be getting their games, and everything is fine. And that people who don't know how to compare properly are not understanding this is not a Series S situation. The market is completely different, and it's PlayStation, not Xbox. Not to beat that down, but I'm just saying it's not the same. So let me know what you guys think. Keep on gaming no matter what platform you're on. Peace.